Hello Earth family. I want to talk to you about the importance of having love and compassion for ourselves and for learning to understand ourselves on such a deeper level, understanding the mechanics of how we work in mind, body and soul, and how the mind, body and soul interact with one another. In order to do this, to try and get this teaching across, I'm going to use these little props, okay? Makeup props. But one is representing the mind and everything that goes on in the mind. The stress, the chaos of the mind, the thoughts of the mind, the daydreaming of the mind, the way that the mind processes and identifies our world and how it helps us to interpret our world, whether that be good or bad. So we have the mind. The body is this nice solid gold one. The thick sturdy physicality. The biological body. The physicalness of us and our biological makeup. And this one at the end here, this little piggy, is representing the soul. The energetic self. Okay. So it's important throughout our lives to try and maintain some balance between the mind, body and soul, and to understand that if one is slightly out of sorts, how it can impact the rest. So, for example, the mind. If the mind is very stressed and anxious, this is going to induce physical, chemical reactions within the body. I might not be doing a very good job of this whole with the props, but this was kind of a way of me trying to get this across to you through a representation. So if the mind is in stress, or if the mind identifies anything that could be a danger, whether that be a harsh danger or danger of us being embarrassed, danger of our identity being misunderstood, danger of well, anything that can be seen to be a little bit, trivial even, but the mind can still identify it as a danger, and so it will induce certain physical reactions within the body. Now these reactions will be chemical reactions that are induced that then cause the body to go into some sort of stress. So it will be preparing the body maybe to run away, the whole fight or flight syndrome, to run away, to get ready to defend and stand up for ourselves and to fight our corner and, to argue or whatever it might be. It might be that if the mental mind is confused, this can also create anxious chemical reactions within the body. When the mind is trying to suppress certain things that we might not be dealing with, it then goes into the subconscious. But the subconscious can also impact the biological body. So this can induce feelings of panic attacks and different reactions that the mental mind isn't even aware of sometimes that's going on, because it's all going on subconsciously, but it's still impacting the body physically. Now through these physical reactions within the body, we get the stressor hormones that are being released chemically. We get all the stressor neurons and different chemical firings that are going on, which ultimately, if the mind and body are out of sorts, so too is the soul. Now the soul is the feeling, our emotions, how we feel our way through life. The soul is our pureness, okay? So if all of this is not going through a great time, it's ultimately impacting our soul awareness. Oh no, I can't be advertising what this is, can I? Turn that around a little bit. I don't want to advertise that. These are my old lipsticks. I don't use these anymore so much because and I wouldn't buy them again because they're animal tested. So There you go, they're old ones. So anyway, so this impacts the soul, because ultimately we're not happy, and our soul does not have its peace and its stillness within. So let's go at this from another angle now. Let's focus ourselves on the body. Okay? Now physically, if the body is under any kind of stress, it's going to impact the mental mind. If you are in pain, especially if it's a prolonged, certain people who suffer, whether it's with autism, or if you've pulled a muscle, or you're ever suffering trying to get over any particular injury or whatever it might be, when the body is under prolonged suffering especially, the mental mind is hugely affected by that, and it's also, with the mental mind being affected, it's also putting the soul into a slightly stressed out disposition. Our spirit body, our energetic self, our feelings, our emotions are going to be dampened, especially when we start taking certain painkillers to help us through that. Even more so, our emotions are dampened, our feelings are dampened. That's not saying not to take any particular painkillers and things that you need to. Sometimes if you can try and find herbal alternatives, I would always recommend that. However, focusing again on the body. Now you've only got to think, women especially, well, men as well, but let's take the average female going through our monthly cycles. Now we all know, ladies, we all know how that can affect us at times. Some of you are incredibly blessed that you don't really get affected that much when you come into your monthlies. But some are quite affected, we get the physical pains of it, the bloatingness, we might put on a bit of weight, we might get spots, whatever it might be. And that is going to make you feel on a soul level not so great, because it's dampening your mood state. Mentally, it's affecting you. So all three are being affected. Also, through these hormonal changes going on through us, can also make us quite anxious. It can make us react differently to certain things, because when we're due our monthlies, we get a natural burst of cortisol that runs through our bodies, which cortisol is the stressor hormone. So it makes the mind tick a little bit faster. It makes us maybe feel a little bit fiercer, ready to snap. If anybody rubs us up the wrong way, okay, we've all been there. Maybe we just don't handle certain situations as best as we could on a normal day, let's say. It can make us feel quite clumsy, all these different things. So again, this is something else our mental mind is also struggling to cope with, and we don't always give ourselves the benefit of the mind, if you like, that the mind is even always aware of what the physical body is going through. We don't always give ourselves enough compassion to say, okay, to forgive ourselves quite quickly if we've maybe acted a bit too quickly about something, or said something out of sorts or out of turn. Always remember, you can always say sorry, and never have too much pride to say sorry. Something I've had to learn over the years, my husband will tell you. But so yes, when we're going through our monthlies, ladies, men as well can go through certain hormonal changes. Pregnancy, another one. Okay, not for the fellas, but pregnancy, another one. Hormones are all over the place, impacting the mental mind also. And, feeling uncomfortable, heavy, tired, stressed within the pregnancy, the mental mind is going to start feeling tired and stressed and, oh, get this baby out of me. Though a beautiful bonding experience at the same time. And the light of the soul is going to be slightly dampened because the rest of it isn't operating on such a high vibration of upliftment and happiness and love and peace, because we're disturbed within the other two areas. Now, just one more thing with the body. Be very wise of what we're putting into our bodies. Everything that goes in is going to affect us on a chemical level. Our bodies are operating to break down the food and drinks that we're putting in. All of the different ingredients of those food and drinks are going to be extracted and taken around our blood flow, which is going to affect us on a chemical level. This chemical level can be that sometimes we feel a little bit hyper if you've had a cup of coffee. I used to be very sensitive to coffee. I don't even drink it anymore now. Coffee for me was like taking a drug. And you know, in my earlier years as a teen, I can say that yes, I used to have amphetamine, for example, speed. I can tell you now, if you give me a nice strong coffee from Costa or Starbucks or somewhere, trust me, those same feelings I had after taking so much speed in my teens, it's the same. Okay, there was no difference with it with myself and the way that I felt. I would be wired big time. My heart would be racing, my teeth would be chattering. So, you know, I don't do all that anymore. So, okay, this is my past. I've moved on. I don't need to have those things anymore to feel good. Again, that whole part of my life is in the book. Read it. A Survivor of Love. Okay? Another plug in there for my book. So, different chemicals and things that we put into our body impact us. And I would just feel sometimes when I was having coffee that my mind would be racing and I couldn't focus properly on one thing, and before one thing had finished ticking in my head, the next thing had come in, and I was all over the place with myself, and it ended up making me start to feel quite crazy at times, and it also affected my moods. I started to find that the more aware of myself I was becoming, I started to find that the next day of having a coffee the previous day, the next day I would actually have like a hangover effect. I still get that now if I have chocolate. Like I said, I'm vegan, so it would be vegan chocolate, and I only have the dark chocolate. And I still get like a similar thing if I have too much. If I have too much sugar or cocoa powder, it's like a calm down effect the next day, and I might feel a bit moody. I struggle to find my energy because your body is then saying, no, I need another hit of whatever you gave me yesterday to now pick me up and make me feel energetic. You don't need that. It's your body and your mind playing tricks with you. And that's why giving up caffeine can be quite difficult. You know, people in the first few days, people experience headaches, like really crazy withdrawal symptoms, feeling sick, tired, moody, depressed. These are all sort of typical symptoms of just cutting out coffee. So that's quite incredible, just how caffeine can affect us. But yeah, then there's other chemicals and things that we eat and drink that can affect the mind and then ultimately go on to affect the soul. Now, let's work with the soul. Moving on from the mind and the body, let's work with the soul for a moment. Our spirit self, our energetic self. Now, this can be something as simple as our chakras being out of line, out of balance. It can be some ongoing stresses and pressures from life that have just slowly dampened the soul, so the light of the soul has just kind of shrank until the soul kind of feels trapped inside. Our true self feels trapped, and this then can start to impact. The soul is going to speak. The spirit, the energy self, is going to speak to the body. It's going to tell the body how it's feeling, maybe through physically putting these knots in your tummy, physically making your heart race, making your heart feel like it's sinking. Mentally, certain thoughts are going to start going through your mindset. If it's darker thoughts or sad thoughts that are ongoing for you, this can be the soul screaming out to you, help me. You need help, and you need